Thank you for slamming my face onto your keyboard.
I'm going to use that as an intro. Welcome back to another episode. It's really early in the morning for me right now. Today I'm with Bslick, music producer for Dressroom Chris, Gigi, Sharkbite, Bravos, and so much more.
Well, hey, as you know, I'm Bslick. I'm a composer and music producer and songwriter. I do most of my work on the Roblox platform. So there's probably a game that you have played at some point that had my music in it. Very possible.
I was wondering, our generations of Roblox really huge and stuff. I want to know how you get started on Roblox.
It was kind of weird how it happened. And without making it too long of a story, a long time ago, I made a song about Minecraft, and it was 2009 that I made this song. And I swear it's the first original fan song made for Minecraft, and somebody can prove me wrong and send me a link. But anyway, that kind of grew over the next couple of years after that, where I made 2 or 3 albums worth of original Minecraft music. I was making songs about the individual mobs, and so that was kind of my first big kind of popular thing that I created on the internet. So then fast forward, and I'm still working a day job. I'm working an office job in a marketing department doing videography and motion graphics. So not music related whatsoever. And I'm just doing music on the side as a hobby. And it's not music like I'm doing now for games. It was writing original vocal songs or parodies or whatever. And so I revisited those old Minecraft songs, and I created kind of not remastered, but I recreated the old songs from the ground up, re-recorded vocals and everything. And I was selling the entire thing on Bandcamp. And so then when you put stuff on Bandcamp, initially they give you codes that you can hand out to people to do free downloads. So I started doing giveaways for the music. And so I was doing my Minecraft song giveaway. And so people were, being a part of the giveaway. And oftentimes they're going to be Minecraft fans, Minecraft players, Minecraft content creators, were a lot of the people who were interested in this. Someone who I think had won, and they were a content creator doing Minecraft stuff, but they also did Roblox videos. And I had heard of Roblox before, but it wasn't I didn't have an account, and I've never played it before. The end of 2016 was when I started doing these giveaways. So it's not too long ago, but I guess that is long ago at this point. I'd started kind of getting into the community on Twitter of developers who worked on Roblox. Very early on in my relationship with working with Rumble Studios, the first game that I worked on with him was Mining Simulator, but the music was meant for a different game actually that he was working on that he never finished, but he ended up taking all the songs and repurposing them and using them for Mining Simulator, of how I got into the platform. So it was basically working with Isaac and then also kind of getting into that content creator sphere at the same time.
That was a decade ago, and you build up the everything success. How do you maintain the success and the level, to keep on growing as a freelancer?
Specifically for freelancing, I think that the hardest part is to maintain your trajectory. Sometimes you work really hard on something, and then it's you finish and it's released, and then you just kind of want to sit back and take a break for a while. But that time is super short that you can take a break, because as soon as you take a break and you're no longer putting your name out there, everything slows down. Even if you already have connections with people, sometimes if they just don't even see your name come across their feed, sometimes they don't think about reaching out to you or whatever. it's kind of hard to come up with what is considered like a healthy balance. Working on something, dropping it, taking a needed break, but then like remembering that you still need to maintain where you're going. It's a very good question. I think the one thing that helps is whatever style of project management that you're doing, as long as you're keeping up with managing your project, it's easy to take a break. Like when you step away for a while and then come back, if you're not confused about what is coming next, then it's easier for you to like get back into the cycle of things. I keep a pretty rigorous log and Google Sheets of like all of my and past and upcoming projects, and at each line in my sheet has information. Like everything has a date code attached to it, and that date code I also put in the file names for the project. So if I have to reference something for somebody and look for an old file, I just look up the date code and the stuff comes right up. If you can easily get back to what you're doing and not be confused about what you're jumping back into, I think that also helps with maintaining like the energy of working on multiple projects.
You know how freelancing has like it's not really stable type of like income. Freelancing is like you never know when your next job's gonna come. You ever had a job or something?
Yeah, like all that year.
How do you deal with it though? Like how do you handle
It's been especially horrible, and I think first and foremost it's a mental thing, because, and obviously this is like person to person, it's going to be dependent on how somebody deals with this, but like if you're getting closer to the end of your month or getting close to like bills or whatever, I mean it's a freak out moment sometimes, and I think depending on who it is, you can definitely easily spiral and get into dark places. And like luckily, I don't want to say I'm lucky or anything like that, but like I'm 34, I'm married, I have 4 kids. We already have a pretty good and stable like family day-to-day system and stuff like that. And so I have people at home, that we can support each other, during those kinds of times, I'm definitely somebody who like worst case scenario builds about anything that's negative. So as soon as like I'm like crap, it's like the 3rd or 4th week of the month and like I barely have anything, it definitely gets dark sometimes. But I think that's where sometimes you'll see, and I've done this before, where like some like people will run sales or they'll do giveaways or they'll do a contest or something just to get like more traction when they don't have any traction. Even people who have done a lot of work before, like at some point you lose traction just due to whatever economy or time of year. So going into freelancing, you kind of have to be prepared because it's going to happen, and just know that when it does happen, you have ideas or plans in place for, helping support those times. For me, for some reason, this happens often where like I'll have like a really dry beginning of the month, and then the last week I get like 4 clients at the same time, and I have to take them because I have bills to pay. So I'll be like, hey, I have this big project, I can do it. 3rd or 4th person, hey, I have this huge project, can you finish it soon? Yeah, totally. I think that's just like freelancing in general.
Yeah, 4 kids right now. How is it like being a dad?
Just being a dad, I mean, it's great. They're new to this world. They're new here. And so there's like lots of things they don't inherently know, where you don't really think about that until they're like, what is that? Or what are you doing? Or what? And so it just makes life interesting sometimes, because you end up having to like explain the most simple thing that you think is simple, but they're like, wow.
Yeah.
So it makes the day-to-day kind of interesting in that way.
Like how you manage your time, since you do like freelance work and you do your work stuff as well, you have to handle the kids and family as well. Like how on earth?
Sure. So it's definitely not like a 9-to-5 type job, you have to be flexible. Working from home, like I'm working from home, my wife's at home, like we're both home full time, but typically my day probably doesn't start until like 10 or 10:30 because I'm up at around 6. One of my kids wakes me up, and then it's basically I'm with them all morning, doing breakfast or like helping them start the day. So then my day will start around 10:30, but then like I'll try to work between like 10:30 and like 5:30ish. But it's not like I work through that entire time. Like there's my newest addition to the family is only 3 months old. So like she'll take a nap in my office. And so like she'll be awake, and then like one of my oldest daughter will like bring the baby up, and I'll have my headphones on and I'll look over and she'll be like bouncing the baby, and she'll be like, and I'm on like keyboard like pounding away at something. I'm like, okay, can't be a minute. Yeah. And then I have to step away for a quick second, and like, put her down for her nap and stuff. And like sometimes she naps for a couple hours, sometimes she naps for 7 minutes. It's a kind of roulette. I try to take a break for lunch and actually go downstairs and eat with everybody and not try to eat at my desk. I had been in the bad habit of eating at my desk a lot because I felt like I was so busy that I couldn't step away even to like eat. Trying to be better about, actually like having meals away from work. This goes back to your project management. If you don't have a clear and concise plan of what you're working on, it's hard to step away and come back and be as prepared as you were before you left.
Freelancing isn't just about doing just its work. You need to do like a lot of stuff, like from marketing yourself, from how to do sales, from everything basically. How do you market yourself? So
you definitely have to oftentimes wear many hats as a freelancer. And I think that depending on how you are most comfortable with marketing yourself, you may do a few of the hats better than the others. Me marketing myself, it's kind of like in a funny way, just because that's my humor. Funny song or something like that. Like I'll do a funny piano song. Marketing just may look different, but it seems to work well for me, especially in this community, since the audience is a bit younger. Music was kind of like almost a secondary thing. Nowadays, the music is kind of a primary thing, depending on where the marketing's coming from, because there are big projects that I've worked on. Humor being a big thing behind my marketing. Twitter has been the biggest use of marketing tool for me, since that's like where I found the community to begin with. For Roblox, Twitter is a good one. X, whatever you want to call it Twitter.
Is the tweet that you tweeted out about the mindset and stuff that was the freelance? Can you clarify more on that in this video?
When I started out early on doing jobs, it was a lot different. Like my mindset going into them, like obviously I knew it was just a job, and I knew that it was to try and make money. And at the beginning, I was doing it on the side. I was still working a day job, and I was just doing it. It was still kind of a hobby a little bit, but it was like, people can buy stuff from me. Like, that's cool. And so I think it was easier for me to get into a place where if the like revisions process was really, really long on something, it would start to feel personal, kind of. Why isn't this person enjoying what I'm creating type deal? Or like, I feel like I'm taking their feedback and revisions and using their notes and creating what they want, but they still don't seem to like what it is. Like, what's the deal? It became frustrating in some situations, like so much so that I just couldn't like continue with like I would have to take a break from the project. I would just be like I wouldn't even want to touch it. Like, it was so stressful. And then over time, and I think this was after like getting into, I don't want to say dark places, but just like getting frustrated sometimes, where I had to remind myself, like, okay, like the whole point of this is to get the project out. They want it. Like, obviously they're hiring me because they like previous stuff that I've made, and they like my talent and what I can bring to the table. But at the end of the day, they're looking for something specific usually. So how can we get to that specific thing that they're looking for? Now, if I get on something that there's a lot of revisions, like sometimes people will even be like, I'm so sorry. Like, can we do this instead? Oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, don't apologize. Like, you're paying for this, and I don't want people to buy something and then like be like, I really like it, I feel like that's worse. Like then they really won't want to come back and work with you again, right? So it's a lot easier, but yeah, it's just like trying to get in the mindset of like somebody's paying you a service, so you have to try and give them like the best version of that service that you can. It's not just about you making music or like using your hobby or thing that you're good at to make something that you like. You're trying to make them happy with whatever they're purchasing. So you kind of have to let go of the personal part of it sometimes. I was gonna say I still typically enjoy everything I create. Like I feel like you kind of have to because you're making it. Yeah, the number one thing is making sure that it's what they like.
I was like, I like how you reframe it to how can I get closer to your vision? Like that's the TLDR that I got from it. I learned to realize that I'm a designer, not an artist. I think that's a great way to frame it.
A developer has sat on some idea or like came up with some good idea and they want to create the best game they've ever made, and it's their creation, it's their Jurassic Park, you know what I mean? And so when they're bringing somebody onto their project to make an asset of any kind, it's still theirs. Like, yes, it's your asset, but it's for their thing that they have come up with or created. And yes, you can create the best thing ever and you can be the best at what you do, but if you can't mesh well with their idea or revise your asset to fit inside of their brief, then it's not going to matter in the end. Working with a puzzle when you're working with a brief, what puzzle piece can you create that's going to fit their missing puzzle pieces that they need to finish? There's a lot of times where people will say, I don't really know what I'm looking for. And what I've found out is they don't know what they're looking for until they hear something they're not looking for. So whenever somebody says, yeah, I'm not sure, I'm like, don't worry, I'll throw something together and then you tell me what you don't like about it. That typically works, because then I'll send them something and they'll be like, oh yeah, can we change this? Can we change that? I like this part. And then eventually, and then somehow or another, they're like, yeah, can it be more like this? And then they have a reference at that point, like that they didn't have before, or maybe there was like something they weren't thinking about until they heard that thing that they didn't like. Even if somebody doesn't have a clue what they want, just start making something and then they'll guide you through what they want at that point,
That's a good insight.
I've had all kinds of situations, and so like sometimes people will ask me, well, what do we do now? Do I give you ideas? Do I send you references? And I'm like, you can give me whatever you want, or you don't have to give me anything at all. It doesn't matter. If you have references, that's great. If you don't, not a big deal. You can just tell me like an aesthetic or a tone or an emotion, a color. I don't care. Whatever you have or don't have, it's fine. Like, you can start this process, or if you want me to just start, I'm good with that. And then, then we just go from there.
So basically what you're doing now is like doing sound hooks. I believe this is your hobby before. What happens like after it turns into like sort of like career?
I mean, generally the only thing that's different is that I'm more so making things for other people and I'm getting paid for it. That's really like the two biggest differences. I mean, I'm still using the same tools. I'm still using the same instruments. I'm still being sometimes able to make songs with vocals, even, like I did the Piggy songs that have vocals in them and got to work with vocalists. So I mean, like, technically I'm still doing what I loved to do before, just technically collaborating with other people while doing it. And then like, having those discussions with people throughout like revision processes and stuff, which is obviously quite different because before I was just not having to talk to anybody. But I would say the plus that I could say in the difference is that you do like what you were saying at the beginning to me, you do learn a lot throughout the process. So I actually, over the years that I've been doing this, have learned kind of like a pattern sometimes with what people have liked and what they haven't liked, or the things that people like revise. I've seen a pattern sometimes with certain things, and so I've been able to kind of carry those patterns into new projects and kind of avoid those revisions sometimes on new projects, which is nice.
You would get like desensitized to the hobby as well, the fun stuff.
I mean, kind of. I don't have a whole lot of time to explore it as a hobby anymore, necessarily. But it's hard to say if that's me going full-time freelance, doing it as a job, or if it's like family. You know, so if I was like a single person and living by myself, yeah, probably maybe would have more time to explore it as a solo musician and do stuff that like wasn't work stuff. It's not like I hate doing it as a job, and it's not made me hate music or hate what I do. It's like a different workflow when you're incorporating other people kind of like trying to tell you what to do, you know.
Lessons that you want to give, or final thoughts you want to give to the future generations of Roblox developers out there? You have any final thoughts or final message you want to send to them?
Sure. And I think that this can carry outside of Roblox. Just get to know people. People are so vastly different, and especially when we're solely communicating via just like direct messages or just in text on Discord or whatever, it's hard to really hear someone's voice or like understand exactly what they're inferring by saying something. And I think that's where like miscommunications happen all the time, especially when people are doing like commissions, even if they're small. I think people say stuff, but they're meaning it differently than how somebody's reading it to themselves. And so, yeah, just like get to know people and get to know how they communicate, and don't read something from somebody and immediately take it as negative, you know, like really ingest it and take it in, because they may not mean to be negative. It may not be that way. It also could be a language barrier, like maybe English isn't their primary language, so maybe them typing out not perfect English comes across as rude, but they're not actually being rude. You know what I mean? I think that can help like avoid headaches in the future with like working with a bunch of people, and especially on a platform where there are a lot of nationalities. You know, at the end of the day, you're the star.
Peace out. All right.